This is a video about a statewide MLS. Now, if you haven't listened to my podcast about the MLS and why they're regional and fragmented and the backstory and why MLSs compete, then I highly recommend listening to it. And I'll put a link to that episode in the description. And the episode really goes into depth about why MLSs are the way they are right now and the direction things are going with the statewide or national solution, because that topic comes up fairly so often. But here in this video, we're actually going to look at a statewide MLS that's called My State MLS. Now, we're on the homepage here, and you'll see at the top, Nationwide Multiple Listing Service. This is actually a national solution. The difference is that, of course, each real estate agent is licensed in the state in which they're going to conduct business. So even if you have a nice national solution like this, it's going to have to be segmented state by state, because each agent's going to have to be licensed in the state in which they post listings. Now, of course, there are agents that will work in more than one state, or they might work on the border between two states and do business in both. So if you're licensed in more than one state, of course, you'd have access to post listings in both those states that you're licensed in. So here we are on the homepage, and let's go ahead and log in. I haven't spent a ton of time on this MLS, so this will be kind of an exploration for both of us here. All right, so we're on this dashboard. When you log in, you're presented on this homepage, and it's, I guess they call it the wall. I see that there's a button up here called Wall. It brings you back. So the dashboard, for the purpose in this case, is called the wall. And you have a nice toolbar here on the side. And so now keep in mind that I'm a broker, so you're looking at this dashboard may have some administrator privileges in viewing, but I imagine more or less it's going to look the same for anyone that's on here. All right, so we have different options on this toolbar on the left. My listings, there aren't any right here, so we'll move on to new listing. Of course, this is where you'd enter a listing. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And we go to search. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So firstly, I really like that there's a user-friendly interface for the search, because typically you see very simple and easy to use tools reserved for consumers. For example, I have the Realtor.com app on my phone, and it's easy for me to look at listings. I mean, I can look at listings nationwide by just scrolling through. I can go on a map view and with my finger swipe through a map view and have listings populated all over the country. I can skip from state to state looking at different listings. And for agents, when we enter listings and do searches, now, of course, obviously we're putting in more search criteria, but usually it's not as user-friendly. And there's no reason for it not to be. Without going on a tangent here, a lot of the established MLSs, they're all built on the same infrastructure, and that infrastructure has been around for a while, and it gets updated, but it's not user-friendly like what tech companies put together for consumers. So this kind of bridges that gap and makes it very user-friendly. So let's just do a search. Now, interestingly enough, before this video, when I was kind of playing around with the MLS here, I just typed in somewhere out of the area. So I'm in Southern California, but just for kicks, let's type in New York, New York. Actually, we'll just go like this, New York, Illinois. And we'll do a search. Now, with an MLS that you currently will use, when you do a search for out of the area, nothing comes up, of course. And you're limited. There are these geographic barriers with MLSs. What's interesting is when I type that in, well, how many listings came up? 151,000 listings came up. I mean, this is pretty crazy. So I thought, okay, does this mean that an agent can search listings throughout the entire country? And so I typed in, I think I did Florida after that, right? I did Miami, Florida. And then here we are, listings. Not a lot, but there are. Not as many as New York. But this company, I think, is predominantly in the East Coast. their coverage, or where they have an established client base. And so the further away you get from there, you'll probably see less, but there are still listings. And then let's jump back to somewhere close by here, Oceanside, California. And what's interesting too is that it really offers agents the ability to, so sometimes you have clients relocating out of the area. Maybe you want to just help them search and then connect them with an agent in another area. Now you can search anywhere. So the barriers, these restrictions we have as agents of only being able to see in that narrow scope of where our MLS covers is gone. So automatically, I love that feature about this. Now, these are listings that are entered into My State MLS. So the next question logically would be, well, what happens to all those other listings that aren't in this MLS? Because the reason why your local MLS now doesn't have expanded coverage outside of a certain geographic area is because there are other MLSs that cover that area. And if agents are entering their data into those outside MLSs, you won't see it. Well, the same thing happens here. If people aren't entering their listings into My State MLS, then you're not going to see it when you do a search. But there's a workaround. And so that's what's interesting. So as My State MLS grows, when you do a search, listings in here will be visible and you can see things nationwide. Now, when you can't find a listing because it's not entered into My State MLS, let's say there's an agent that has, let's face it, most local MLS listings won't be in My State, and that's where everyone's looking. That's where agents are entering them. So here we are. It takes us over. There's this tool. Actually, I should back up here and show you what I clicked on. So on the left-hand side, so you have contacts, and I'll get to that in a second. It's pretty straightforward. But what's exciting is, so we just went from the search, which is an internal search for My State MLS. Now we're jumping over to Find. Okay, what's Find? Well, this is a tool. Now, we've all heard of Realtor.com, but when you think of Realtor.com, you're likely thinking of the consumer interface. And that's where Realtor.com as a standalone company has patched together data from all these MLSs. So the reason why I can sit on my couch in the evening and just for kicks on my phone scroll through listings in San Diego, California, then Phoenix, Arizona, and then I can jump over to Dallas, Texas, and then over to Florida. So that seamless consumer experience is because Realtor.com is actually patching together all those data feeds from all these local MLSs. So whereas on the front end, it looks seamless, very easy. There's listings. I'm on a layover on a flight. I'm in Salt Lake City. I'm curious what's available or what things cost in the area. I can look at it. Then I land wherever my destination is. Let's say it's in Los Angeles. I can look there. All that seamlessness is due to behind the scenes this hodgepodge of all these different data feeds that the Realtor.com is knitting together from all these MLSs. So it's all these different feeds coming together and then being allocated in one place. And so for the consumers, it makes it really easy. For us agents, it of course fragments everything and makes it very territorial and regional. The interesting thing is there's a professional solution that Realtor.com offers. And that same patchwork that they give to consumers that makes it very easy to browse listings is available for agents to look. So I just have, the most famous zip code, of course, 90210. Let's leave that there and we'll do a search. Okay. So now you have listings. You have listings and they're not from My State because again, what happens to all those listings that are out there that aren't already entered into My State MLS? Well, they're not visible on that first search we did, but they are visible on the local MLS. Here's the beautiful thing. This professional Realtor.com search, it actually pulls the data from the local MLS. So the MLS that everyone's using, that's where this is coming from. And so we can just click on any listing here. These are probably sorted by these are sold listings. Okay, we should probably go back and refine our criteria. But for the sake of the video, you can see the listing here. You can see the listing agent and all the information. So you can call this person up and say, hey, I want to show your property. I'm an agent, etc. But here's the important point. You aren't compromising your search visibility for your clients, because when you enter a listing in My State MLS, okay, of course you're posting a listing. What happens when you are asking yourself, can I represent a buyer? Just as well as I can enter a listing for a seller, can I represent a buyer using My State MLS? Well, the answer is clearly yes. In fact, potentially better than whatever local MLS you're a member of, because that local MLS has geographic restrictions. This doesn't. This patches together all those MLSs so that if you have a client that's maybe considering living in either side of two counties, and maybe those counties use different MLSs, well, you can just seamlessly search for listings in there. Now, one drawback is that sometimes the cooperating broker commission isn't posted in here, I've noticed. But interestingly enough, Redfin just announced that they're actually posting the cooperating broker offered commission. So like all this MLS information has become public recently, now the cooperating broker commission, that's also going to be public information. And so we're coming to a point where there's virtually no data that's not publicly available. And it's made it a little bit harder for agents to be gatekeepers and leverage private information. But at the same time, there's a way to adapt and make that beneficial to us. And that's what this solution does. It patches together lots of MLSs and makes it quite user friendly. All right, so I'm going to back up here. Go back. And you can search anywhere on this realtor.com. Let's see. All right, so now we're back on the main page. Okay, contacts. So this acts as kind of a basic CRM as far as I understand. You can enter a new contact in here. Very straightforward. It's easy to keep track of, there's all sorts of data you can enter for your contact to, look at this, even birthday, their partner, if they have kids. So this is a CRM solution, which is nice. And they say that what's the best CRM? That's a common question. And I heard someone say very cleverly, the CRM that you actually use, because that's the real challenge, right? I mean, you just need somewhere to enter data. I mean, you can use an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet or even something on an MLS. I think the MLS CRMs are actually very handy because you're usually corresponding with your contact regarding MLS properties. And if you can create some sort of MLS-derived document like a listing or a list of homes for sale or even a comparative market analysis or comps or whatever, if it's already in there, if the contact's already in the MLS, you can just send it directly from the MLS right to the contact. Okay. Then there's this other tab, listing forms. So this looks like just kind of a page of auxiliary forms to use if you don't have access to forms or if you're in a pinch or there's something out of the ordinary that you need. So this is a nice little added tool. Oh, and I think I'm going to log back in here. Okay. And this up here on the top right looks like it just repeats the same toolbar. So this is a very simple but robust interface because it allows you to do everything that you want without overcomplicating things. So I guess that's a good place to conclude this video. It's an overview of My State MLS. I think that this MLS is going to increase in popularity in the Western United States because the range of coverage is just so far superior. And again, if you listen to my podcast episode of local MLSs and why their hands are tied in terms of expanding, because naturally, if you could just have access to a statewide MLS, wouldn't that be easier? I mean, agents are always asking that question on online forums. Why isn't there a national MLS? Why isn't there a statewide MLS? Well, there is, and here it is. And that's why this is exciting to share. All right, if you have any questions, I'll leave my contact information in the video description, and I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you.